If you love boxing, you're gonna love this.
Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the BoxNation podcast. I'm your host, Dev Sani, and this week I am joined by a man who is buoyant. He is jubilant. His beloved Fulham have just been promoted to the Premier League. Steve Lillis, how are you?
Oh, mate, I'm still buzzing, Dev, from the Premier League. We're a few days later and I'm still liking Premier League heaven, mate, after Saturday at Wembley. One of the best the best footballing day I've ever had, mate. And then does it get better? Yes, it gets better. I'm doing episode 26 of the BoxNation podcast with Dev Sani.
Steve, I've got to say, you've been smashing the Instagram stories, by the way. I've been sort of following your progress. Very, very good.
It's my daughter Hannah, who's been she's hijacked the account, and she's the one who's taking the interest in the Instagram. Well, I'm sure she'll be putting something out later.
Well, I hope so. I'll be following it with a keen eye. Over the weekend, I saw a video of you with your top off, waving your shirt about, flexing those guns. I had to cover the eyes of Mrs. Sani for fear she would see a real man and leave me. So thanks for that, Steve.
Well, Mrs. Sani, that's the normal me, but you've got a proper man there in Mr. Sani.
Well, there is no doubt you are dealing with prime Indian beefcake right here, but let's get on with the show. We have simply got one of our best ever interviews, an absolute legend of a man, and we'll get to him very shortly, but I'm buzzing about it. I can't believe we got him on the show. I've wanted him on the show for weeks, and we finally hear from him. We hear from 20-year-old heavyweight sensation Daniel Dubois and his June 23rd opponent Tom Little. Believe me, there is little love lost in that affair. Stay tuned. We've got so much coming up. Stick with us and enjoy. Now, every week we bring you some of the best boxing interviews from around the world. This week is no different. In fact, it might be our best interview yet. Yes, I said it. Let me ask you this. What do Bethel Lomachenko, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, what do they all have in common other than the fact that they are boxers? Well, I'll tell you what. At some point in their career, they were promoted by the man whose voice you'll hear very, very shortly. It's a pleasure to say, here is Steve Lillis with Top Rank boss Bob Arum.
Bob, thanks for joining us on the BoxNation podcast. And first of all, it's fantastic to renew the output deal between BoxNation and Top Rank, because British fans are going to see some of the greatest fighters in the world, aren't they?
Yes, they are. We have, thanks to ESPN, we have a great program. We're going to be doing up to 18 fights a year on the ESPN linear platform, another 12 on the ESPN Plus. So that's 30 fight events a year, and the best ones are going to go on BoxNation because we have an output deal with you. You're going to see all the great champions from all over the world fighting on that platform.
If we can talk, Bob, about one fight we've got coming up on the channel that everyone's excited about, Terence Crawford against Jeff Horn. What's your take on that fight?
Well, I look at Terence as technically being the best of the fighters in the welterweight, middleweight division. He's a consummate boxer, a great puncher. He has all of the tools. He was the lightweight champion. I believe he won the lightweight championship from Ricky Burns over at the United Kingdom. And he then became the junior welterweight champion, 140 pounds. And he succeeded in unifying the titles, winning all 4 belts. And now he moves up to the welterweight division, where he fights Jeff Horn, who's the big, strong kid from Australia, who defeated Manny Pacquiao July of last year.
You've been ringside for the last couple of Horn fights. Has he got the strength to give Crawford big problems in the fight?
He's a much bigger guy than Crawford is. He is, in effect, a junior middleweight who knows how to cut weight so he can make the welterweight limit, yet go in at maybe 15, 20 pounds higher than that welterweight limit. So he's a big, big guy. He's very determined, and he knows how to fight. He was a member of the Australian Olympic team. He's a very, very skilled guy. Not as skilled as Crawford is. No, make no mistake about it. But he's bigger and stronger than Crawford.
These great fighters you've got like Terence Crawford and Bethel Lomachenko, how much further up the weights can they go? Because we know, their ability is second to none, both of them.
Well, we have to see. I mean, I can't really determine that to see how they're going to build, their body is going to be bigger, and whether they can bring their strength up to another weight division. I think that as far as Lomachenko, the best we can hope for is maybe 140 pounds junior welterweight. He's way too small for welterweight. Probably this is the highest he's going to be because, as I say, he was the lightweight champion, the junior welterweight champion. Now he's going for the welterweight championship. I don't see him going further than that as up in weight. Crawford definitely, if he wins, will ultimately go into the junior middleweight.
Jeff Horn, yeah.
Go into the light middleweight division.
Horn's been written off by a lot of people, but he seems to, he's seemed quite upset that so few people are giving him a chance next week or in 2 weeks.
I mean, you can't write the Aussies off. I mean, Aussies are very, very, I don't want to be ethnic, but very, very determined people. You go back in history, it was the Aussies that really won the First World War for the Allies with their determination, and they played a big part in the Second World War. They're tough, determined people. You can't write them off. That's why anybody who's writing Horn off because of the greatness of Crawford is stupid, because Horn is the guy who can stand up to him and give him a battle.
Just one other thing about Lomachenko. If he went to junior welterweight, would you consider him against, say, someone, the winner of the WBO light welterweight fight between Terry Flanagan and Maurice Hooker?
Yeah, Frank Warren's been calling me, and he says Flanagan's going to win that fight, and he thinks that Lomachenko fighting across the pond either later this year or beginning of next year or sometime soon would do massive business.
And another big world title fight you've got that's coming up on BoxNation was between the WBO super middleweight champion Gilberto Ramirez and Alexis Angulo. Ramirez is 37-0, and I think, if you'll correct me, you once said he could be a pay-per-view star. Do you still believe he can?
I certainly believe he can. I believe he has the talent, he has the looks. We've had a tutor with him, so he's speaking very, very good English, conversational English. He's a lovely young man and a really good fighter, and I look for great things from Ramirez. I think that he has a real shot to be the next big Hispanic superstar.
If he comes through Alexis Angulo, will you look at maybe a unification with the WBC champion, David Benavidez?
Yeah, by the way, the good news is we've signed Benavidez to a promotional contract, so we will be featuring Benavidez later this summer, headlining his own card. And then down the road, I'm looking forward to a Benavidez fight with Ramirez for all the marbles.
Fantastic fight that will be. And what's the latest, Bob, on Oscar Valdez and his injury? Because Carl Frampton's picked up the interim. Is Oscar going to be back in action anytime soon?
Well, we have him under medical supervision. They've taken out the wires. When you break a jaw, they wire the jaw. So everything is fine. The wires are out. The doctor is going to evaluate when he can start sparring. We'll give him 2 months after that and have him back in action. But right now, it looks good for November.
I mean, him against Carl Frampton would be something sensational, be it in Belfast or the US, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because, it isn't a hard fight to do. because Frampton is under Frank Warren helm, and Valdez, of course, is under ours, and so we can put together a fight and do it on either side of the pond, depending on where it's more lucrative.
We speak to you here, Bob, and what keeps your enthusiasm going in boxing when you've been around it for 50, 60 years?
Well, I've been around it for 50, 60 years, but I haven't been around Oscar Valdez or Terence Crawford or Vasily Lomachenko or Gilberto Ramirez. I haven't been around those guys. I'm around them now for the first time. That's what keeps my interest. If I was still promoting Muhammad Ali, as great as he was, and he was still around fighting, maybe I wouldn't be as interested as I am now. But everything is new in boxing. You know, Carl Frampton, when I first started with Frank Warren doing co-promotions in the UK, Frampton wasn't even born. So, you know, that's what's great about boxing. That's what's great about being a boxing promoter, is that the new things that come every couple of years.
Who keeps you younger, your boxers like Lomachenko and Crawford, or your grandchildren?
Well, you know, everybody helps. At my age, it needs help from everybody. But yeah, I'm happy, and we're doing. I'm going up to Fresno tomorrow, where we have a big Philippine championship in the 115-pound superfly division. Two Filipino guys in Casas and Sultan, you know, it's exciting because they're all different. You know, boxers aren't cut the same. They're English guys, and they're Ukrainian guys, and there's the ones from the stans, you know, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. There's African American guys. There's African Anglo guys at your end of the pond. I mean, they come from different walks of life, and they bring different personalities to the plate. And for me, that's extraordinarily interesting.
Well, how do you see the landscape of the boxing in the United States going, especially as you got Eddie Hearns come in and announce this big money deal through the DAZN stream? How do you see the future for American boxing over the next 5 to 10 years?
American boxing is entering its golden age with the backing and strength and reach of ESPN. As I said, we will have 30 events a year. That's better than 2 a month. And ESPN affords us a tremendously large platform. It's shown ESPN. Linear is all over the United States, and ESPN Plus, the app, is growing by leaps and bounds because it has sports like boxing, UFC, and baseball and football, and it's going to be absolutely huge. And so following along on those platforms, there'll be plenty of work for fighters, and fighters will come to the fore, and those that really impress will reach the top. So I am so bullish on boxing in America that I haven't been that way in over 25 years. I think we're about to see a rebirth of the sport, so it once again becomes a major sport, not only in the United States, but in the United Kingdom and Europe and all over the world.
How do you see the deal Eddie Hearns done with DAZN working out? Because it seems, you know, they're trying to attract fighters with the sort of figures being bandied about of billion-dollar deals.
Well, you know, billion-dollar deals, you can make it up, but, you know, it's really just a 2-year deal, and those people have an option to renew for another 6 years. It has to prove itself in 2 years, and Eddie is limited to doing contracts on a 2-year basis because he doesn't know what happens after the 2 years. I think he's going to have a lot of difficulty because unlike us in Top Rank and ESPN, where we have 18 of our 30 shows being shown on the linear platform, ESPN the national network ABC, and 12 on the digital platform. All of Eddie's is on the digital platform, and they have no subscribers yet. And while ESPN Plus charges $4.99 for a month for that app, and has far greater content, Hearn's streaming service, DAZN, really has very few subscribers in the United States. How they're going to get any traction, I don't know. But I wish them luck. The more boxing we can have in the United States and all over the world, the better it is for the sport and for the athletes.
Well, Steve, so much to pick up on there. Firstly, massive shout out to you for delivering Bob Arum to me. I think you talked about it a few weeks ago, how great it would be to get Arum on. So well done. Pat on the back.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's down to Evan Corn, the new media man at Top Rank, who come in and replace Lee Samuel. Evan set the interview up, so I'll give him my pat on the back to Evan. But of course, BoxNation, everyone here, we have a great relationship with Top Rank through the output deal, and we have all their best fights. And Bob delivers the best fights like we do on the channel, and Crawford against Horn is just that. It's a really, really good fight. It's the fight where Crawford's going to, hopefully, many people hope is going to excel and show that he is the modern great. Many believe he is. We all know that Horn is the much bigger man, that as what Bob Arum was alluding, more than alluding to there. But Crawford's skills are something else. But I understand Horn's had a great training camp. He's on his way to Las Vegas now as we're speaking. He's been using an American sparring partner called Ray Robinson.
I mean, you can't get better than that, can you?
Can't get better than that. Robinson actually beat Crawford as an amateur in 2005. Not that counts or anything next week. And they sparred over 40 rounds. And Horn's also been sparring with some good Australian amateurs, including one guy, Andrew Hunt, who they're tipping for a medal at the Tokyo Olympics. But he's saying he's in better shape than he was for Pacquiao, and he's going to need to be when he fights Terence Crawford. We're talking about someone who, to me, is a modern great when you look over the last 10 years. A fantastic fighter, a man who's got better and better and better. I remember the first time, and I'll tell you a little story, and it makes me look stupid.
I love your stories. Go on, give it to me.
First time, and I want to put my hands up, and let's be honest, there weren't millions of people writing about Crawford back in 2012, 2013. And he stepped in at short notice, 4 days' notice, for $25,000 to fight Breedis Prescott, who was a bit better known than him back then. And we had the fight on BoxNation. He come in at 4 days' notice. I had a really nice treble that day, and I was counting my money. And then Terence Crawford got in the ring and beat Breedis Prescott. What do I know? But you know what? There you go. So that's why I've never forgotten Terence Crawford, and followed him ever since, and he just gets better and better. Now, how many weights he can go through? He's going to welter next week, and that might be where he has to stop, I think.
Well, he seemed to be like an under the radar special talent, and to think that's what he needed, a breakout performance, taking a fight at 4 days' notice against Breedis Prescott. I remember he talked about Tim Bradley was talking about how he used to spar Terence Crawford, and it was him that actually convinced Bob Arum to sign Terence Crawford, because this guy's been really putting it on me a little bit in sparring here. How do we not know about this guy? So his ascent has been a little different to that of someone who just wins a gold medal and then goes out and has the perfect career planned out for him. He's kind of had to do it the hard way, Steve.
Exactly. I mean, when you go back to the London Olympics in 2012, the American Olympic squad they were really, really poor, but they all still turned professional in a blaze of glory. Whereas Terence was just, as I say, having to step in. There was people obviously at Top Rank who would have fancied him and knew they had something special, but they were keeping under the radar. He just went about and he's done his own thing, and he's done fantastic. And you just love watching him. His timing, his reading of a fight. He's got that great knack that brilliant fighters have, of judging distance so well. Lomachenko does it. You throw a shot and you think, oh, I'm only half inch out. He's catching me with a counter, but it's deliberate. They're deliberately reading you that well, so you miss by half inch and they can counter. He's fantastic to watch. And look, it's a huge assignment for Jeff Horn's size advantage or not. An absolute huge job for him to go there and even get close to him. But it doesn't stop it being an intriguing fight that everyone wants to tune into on BoxNation.
Well, that's just it. Bob Arum said it himself. You can't write the Aussies off. And you know what? I'm not going to completely write him off. And we've got him on next week's podcast. Actually, I spoke to him last night, but we're just gonna hold that back and bring it to you next week. But he's up for it. He's a man up for it. And as you said, he's the bigger man, and we'll give that a bigger kind of preview next week. I'm keen to know your thoughts on what you said about Lomachenko. So he thinks he'll be way too small for welterweight, and 140 pounds is probably the highest. Sounds about right, doesn't it, Steve?
Hey, look, it depends who's around at the weight. So the thing is, we all think Lomachenko can go to 140 pound. I mean, Bob Arum touched on it there when he spoke about Terry Flanagan possibly at the end of this year.
If Terry phoning him.
Yeah, so if Terry wins his fight against Maurice Hooker, and that fight was discussed when Terry had the lightweight. So, you know what, it can certainly go to 140 pound Lomachenko, but it depends who's, we've said this before on the podcast.
Yeah.
Depends who's about at 147 pound. Some of these guys are beasts. Like Keith Thurman would look 4 divisions bigger than him. The thing is, if he goes to 140 pounds Loma and wins there, the temptation's too much not to have a go at 147. And the money's there as well.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of pick the right fight. I'd see someone like maybe a Danny Garcia. Out of all those guys there, if Danny Garcia is able to pick up a WBC belt, that would, he's a great fighter in his own right. But out of Spence, Thurman, these kind of guys, maybe Garcia would be the one to pick. He's not huge at the weight. He moved up from 140, so. And Terry Flanagan might have different ideas altogether. If this dream fight happens, if Lomachenko comes over to the UK and challenges for Terry Flanagan's yet to be won WBO World Super Lightweight title, that might be the end of Lomachenko's ascent in weight, because he could run into a massive 140 pounder in Terry Flanagan.
Well, Terry was a massive lightweight. I know he's only just gone up to the weight, but he will be a big 140 pounder. And one thing about Terry, I'm not going to start saying he beats Lomachenko, but what I will tell you, he won't fear him one iota.
Not at all. And what about the little nugget of info there? I'm not sure how widely reported this has been, but they've signed David Benavidez, it sounds like.
Yeah, there was, look, he obviously wants to do well with Gilberto Ramirez. Bob spoke of him being a pay-per-view fighter a couple of years ago. I think he's 36, 37 and 0. He signed David Benavidez. And I do think there is some problems with Benavidez' manager over this. I think he's threatening action and what have you. So we don't know what's happening there. But obviously the plan is a Benavidez and Gilbert Ramirez unification fight after Ramirez's next defence, which we got on BoxNation on June 30. He threw in quite a few nice little snippets there at the end, did Bob? Yeah,
and it also sounds like Oscar Valdez will be out in November. Looks like they're building towards a return. The wire is out of the jaw. So, it will be interesting to see what happens with that whole situation. Carl Frampton being the interim champion. Is Valdez going to return at the same weight? Is he going to move up? There's been talks of that before. Arum didn't give too much away in terms of what weight Valdez will return at.
No, I also saw another thing a couple of days ago from, I think, is it Frank Espinosa who manages Valdez? If I got the wrong manager, I apologise, but I think it was Frank Espinosa, his manager. And Frank was a little bit more, he's doing okay, but he wasn't as committed as Bob was about him fighting in November. It was, pretty much the wires out, but we've got to see, it wasn't like he will be. I think Bob was a lot more confident of November. So, and, Frank Warren did say a few weeks ago that, the injury could be long term, as it will prove he's out till the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you one thing, though. This Top Rank deal between Top Rank and BoxNation, how good is that? For BoxNation subscribers, keeps Lomachenko on our screens, Terence Crawford, Mick Conlon, the list goes on and on. Your Gilberto Ramirez. How good is that for us, Steve?
It's fantastic because you're naming great fighters, the best prospects in the world, and the number one promoter in America by a long way still, in my opinion. Top Rank have been the best there for years, and we get all their best fights on BoxNation, as you can tell from Bob Bob's voice when he spoke at BoxNation there. He enjoys working with us, and and long may the working relationship continue, because they're the only winner, the real winners there, are the BoxNation subscribers.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It was interesting to get his conclusions on the DAZN deal that Eddie Hearn has over stateside. I mean, Bob Arum is the guy who's there. He knows the market. He's been there 60 years. He's done this deal with ESPN, which is an absolute colossus. So it's very interesting to hear how it's being perceived on that side, because a lot of it from over this side is, wow, there's loads of money he's going to go and take over. But interesting stuff, Steve.
Yeah, well, it seems, according to Bob's claim, that initially it's only a 2-year deal before so people can pull out of it. But look, Eddie Hearn is going to sign fighters off the back of this, because fighters will see numbers and they will sign. Bob claims that Eddie's only signed them to 2 years deals, which is understandable if, it's either going to be a 2-year or 8-year deal. But you know what? The big problem they might have with this $1 billion scheme of Eddie's is the ESPN app, because you're not just getting boxing on that. You're going to get MMA as well, the UFC on that app, and I think it's like $6 a month.
Yeah.
So that's so competitively priced. I don't know what Eddie and his partners are going to charge. They might go cheaper. Who knows? But it's not a suggestion from what it costs in other areas of the Americas, like Canada. But I think it's $6 or $7 a month, the top rank app. And that pricing is very, very competitive.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. I mean, boxing is an ever-changing landscape. One thing for sure is that it was terrific to hear the voice of Bob Arum on the BoxNation podcast. Thanks to Evan Korn. Thanks to Steve Lillis for bringing him to our listeners this week. On June 23rd at the O2 Arena, 7-0 heavyweight sensation Daniel Dubois takes on his most vocal and perhaps his biggest challenge yet. He faces Tom Little for the English heavyweight title. Dubois and Little came face-to-face at a press conference last week, and Little had a lot to say. Comparatively, Dubois had little to say. Here's Tom Little.
Big Tom. You're talking a good fight. Daniel's a baby Frank Bruno. You're going to take him underwater and keep him there. Why?
Because I have the attributes to do so, and he's not standing in front of an empty-headed fool who don't know the difference between a man that can just stand and fight. Listen, trust me, I know I've got what it takes to make him quit, and he's got quit in him. I know he'll sit on a stool. Just saying, I know he'll sit on a stool and he will refuse to come out.
What makes you say with confidence he's got quit in him? What have you seen?
I've seen stuff, and you hear things from reliable people that he said no, and you can ask anyone that's ever been associated with me, no quitting me.
Have you ever sparred with him?
Sparred with him, levered his face up a bit. He was trying to hit me. He was just trying to hit me pretty hard. No, but now listen, Daniel's a good talent. I won't take nothing away from him for that. He's a talented young man, but that's the emphasis on it. He's a young man, and this fight's very early. Like I said in there, I've forgot what he's yet to learn, and I can take him play. There's some things that you can't buy. There's some things that you can't rush, and that's it. He's gonna come unstitched, one round at a time.
Okay, then people say, is it 10 wins, 5 losses? People say you've got a patchy record. How can you beat Daniel Dubois? What do you say to those people?
Listen, like I said, let Simon Kell worry about records. If anyone understands, like I'm pretty sure you're a boxing man yourself, it's hard when you're doing things on the way. Sometimes you got to take risks. I've not had the backing of certain fighters. My record is irrelevant. My heart and desire, and yourself, I've been screaming for a chance for a big fight for God knows. I've got it now. I'm working my backside off to make sure that I take everything away from him. Every bit of status, every bit of limelight. Trust me, even on the commentary, all they're going to be talking about is the work that I'm doing. Numbers of punches. Literally, there won't be a time when I'm not punching. He won't be able to work at the pace I work at.
You're coming off that fight against Filip Horowitz. What's the difference between Horowitz and Dubois?
He's a lot more clever than Daniel. A lot more clever. He sets traps. He ain't just a heavy hitter. he sets traps, he's got fast feet. Daniel not got so fast a feet. Daniel's a big puncher, knows how to box a bit, but he's a very one-dimensional. And for someone with a good boxing brain, that makes life very easy. Do you know what I mean? The worst thing you can do is be a static target in front of him, and that's what people's done. I don't know why. People's gone out, stood in front of him, and he's done the inevitable. He's knocked them down and finished their night quite early. Not me. I've got heart, but I'm not stupid.
Well, Daniel Dubois was on hand to counter, and let's just say he's a man who lets his fists do most of the talking.
Daniel, if it was a talking competition, you'd be a long way behind on points, wouldn't you?
Well, luckily enough, we're not in the talking competition. No, there's still a fight to be had. June 23rd, I'll be ready.
What do you make of Tom as a person and his comments where he said, you know, you're just a baby Bruno, he's going to take you into deep waters and keep your head under?
I pay no attention to none of that. I'm focused on the fight. I don't get involved in none of that. I just stay sharp, stay focused, and it's fight time.
But when you're sitting a few feet away from him and he's saying all that, what's playing through your mind privately?
Well, I'm focused on what I'm going to do to him. But that's about it. I'm focused, I'm ready. Nothing else to say, really.
What are you going to do to him?
I'm going to win. Really, I'm going to perform. I've worked really hard, and camp's not over yet. Still got a few weeks to go, so I'm just going to continue working hard and preparing myself.
You're a young professional, just a handful of fights. What's it like for you though, for the first time when you hear someone putting it on you like that verbally?
It doesn't affect me at all. In boxing, I've been through that loads of times, and behind doors and whatever. But it doesn't affect me at all. I know what I got to do in the ring.
Steve, let me put it this way: if Tom Little is as good a fighter as he is a talker, he destroys Daniel Dubois within 30 seconds of the first round on June 23rd.
Oh yeah, he can talk. I know Tom quite well, and he's never been short of confidence. You know what? At that press conference last week, when it was announced, it was all talking about how Dubois would react.
Yeah.
And he didn't, did he? He just didn't react. He just sort of smiled, shrugged his shoulders, and said, the cliche, I do my talking in the ring. Look, Tom Little is a fantastic character around the domestic heavyweight picture. I do get what he said at the press conference when he remarked about never having a promoter behind him, a big promoter behind him that other, like promoters like his great friend Billy Joe Saunders has been blessed with. But he will get in the ring and he won't be scared of Daniel Dubois. Like some guys get in the ring with these guys that have been chinning people for fun, and they melt when they look across the ring from him. He will be in there giving it a go. People might be saying afterwards, Corey, talk the talk, never walk the walk, but that's what Tom Little is. And what was quite interesting, he doesn't seem to have a great opinion really of Dubois, which surprised me, because Philippe Horovic, who beat him in 4 rounds recently, he rates as being at another level to Dubois, which I found quite interesting. But you do wonder, underneath it all, he showed no emotion there, Dubois, but surely there must be a little bit boiling when he hears interviews like that on the podcast, and here's a man talking him in, taking him into deep waters and putting him under the water and giving him a lesson and telling him, the guy who knocked me out last time, you're not at his level. There must be a little bit of his heartbeat that makes him think, I want to do you in a round.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think so, but I just don't know. I mean, maybe if Tom Little would put it on him a little bit more at the press conference, because it was, he said a lot in interviews with us, in interviews with IFL TV. Tom Little has really gone in on Daniel Dubois, calling him a child in a man's body, all of this sort of stuff. Now, that wasn't said at the press conference in itself. He didn't really go too far deep. It was more about, I'm going to win. I just wonder if he had got a little bit personal, then would we have seen something different?
Maybe there was enough to see something different anyway, because a lot of this stuff had been out before the press conference. It wasn't suddenly stuff he said at Frederick's restaurant afterwards.
Yeah,
like the
but maybe
iFilm interview had been out before that. An interview of us. I'm sure he would have seen if it or been made aware of it. It's very hard not to be made aware of what's being said about you on the internet in this day and age, even for an athlete like Daniel Dubois, who just keeps himself to himself, apart from his dad, his sister and his trainer. it was impossible. It would be impossible for him not to know what was being said. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, tell me, Steve, where is Tom Little finding this confidence? He's saying that he leathered Dubois up in sparring. Can that be true?
He's always had confidence. If you've known Tom, he's always been like it. Before the Horovic fight, he was going around saying what he was going to do to him in Riga. He was going to do this. He was going to do that. You know, he's a confident lad. You know, some fighters, they need that sort of confidence, telling themselves how good they are to hype themselves up. And Tom could be one of those characters. And, you know, as I bumped into Tyson Fury and his trainer, Ben Davison last week in Manchester, had a chat to him for 20 minutes or so at the hotel where they're staying at. And they were saying he's not a bad fighter at all, Tom Little. You know, they're not saying, hey, he's going to go and destroy Dubois, but they're saying there's a good fighter in there. And, you know, and don't forget, Tyson has him up for training often, regularly. I think he was up there 2 days ago in Manchester sparring with him.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, Tom Little, you know, maybe he's picking up a few tricks, and you never know. But
they'll be telling him. I know he's enjoying his training with Don Charles. He's close to Ben Davison and Billy Joe Saunders. They all come from the same area. You know, Ben would have been on hand, and I know he rates Ben. Says Ben's got one of the greatest boxing brains he's met, and Tyson Fury would be giving him, you know, advice on how to go enter this fight against Dubois. But he might just be one of these guys who has to big himself up, big his chances up, to give himself that confidence, which will take into the ring on the night. And that's what we want to see at the O2 Arena, a fighter getting in the ring, confident he's going to chin Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, he would tear up the script altogether. I mean, Daniel Dubois is the monster, the youth monster going through the heavyweight division. He's 7-0. He's knocked all of them out. He's walked through them. He's left people on the floor not moving. These are the sorts of knockouts that we're seeing from Dubois. So this would be a real tearing up of the script. We will find out on June 23rd at the O2 Arena live on BoxNation. Daniel Dubois, Tom Little, English heavyweight title. A bit of a step up for Dubois. He wants another belt. He says he wants every belt. Let's see if he can pick up the English strap. Now, one thing we like on the BoxNation podcast is a bit of beef. I know what you're thinking, Dev. Isn't the cow a sacred animal from around your way? Can't you guys not eat beef? Well, I'll tell you what, I can't get enough of it. And some of it has arisen in the last couple of weeks between unbeaten super featherweight prospects Archie Sharp and Lyon Woodstock. Now, it started when Woodstock said at a press conference, throw us all in a tournament and let's see who the last man standing is. Well, Archie Sharp took exception to this and he fired back on Lyon. They ended up going back and forth. There was a bit of he said, she said about fights being offered and declined, etc. But we're gonna see past all of that. I gave Steve Lillis to give Archie Sharp a quick call on his holiday in Mexico. So thanks, Archie, for speaking to us. And he asked him, what do you think of Lyon Woodstock?
Lyon's a good fighter. He's strong and he's fit. But that suits me down to the T. The stronger the opponent, the fitter the opponent, it's better for me. That's what I need. Stronger and the fitter, because all they do is come hunting for me. So I know all of their game plans, they come straight out for me, and that will suit me down to the T. Bearing in mind, I've been boxing since I was 7. I've beaten all sorts of Olympians, something, Luke, you name it, Terence Crawford. They're all top elite fighters. And at the end of the day, I get my game plan always down to the T, and always come out on top, and I've always been Woodstock.
Could you feel like you've been slowly making good progress? Because everyone seems to have been taken up with Zelfa Barrett and Lyon, don't they, in publicity and stuff? And
Of course. Listen, I'm not on social media. I don't get on that. I've seen a lot of comments saying that I'm melting, I'm this, I'm that, Archie, I'm taking the phone. Listen, it's all little keyboard warriors. I don't need to be on social media digging myself up. My time will come. I'm out in Mexico, loving life, enjoying it with my family. I don't need to be on my phone messaging everyone back. It will happen. September is when I want to fight. If they don't want to fight, then I look for other titles.
what about yourself for, if they're talking of Lyon Woodstock, how soon are you looking at the British champion? James Tennyson just won that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I can say I'm not rushing nothing. The WWE European title was there. They've asked, Lyon Woodstock's got that title. To be honest with you, what we wanted to do from the start was go for the southern area and build it up. But I think boxing's now vacated that title, so we've had to skip the southern area and go straight for the WBC tour. Like I say, once we get that in September, then we'll look at elsewhere. I'm not rushing anything. I'm just enjoying the sport. I'm still young, 23. Do you know what I mean? I've hardly took any shots in any fights I've had. I've won every round, every fight I've had, every round I've had, I've won. So I've not had nothing hard at the minute. So I'm young, fresh, and ready to go.
I mean, you mentioned Zelfa there. Do you think he can beat Ronnie Clark when they have a rematch?
Do you know what? I think Zelfa Barrett underestimated Ronnie Clark the first time. Ronnie Clark, like I say, that suits him down to the teeth. Fit, strong, comes forward. That's lovely. I think Zelfa Barrett gets his game plan right and sticks to the boxing, and he can outbox Zelfa Barrett. Zelfa Barrett's literally game plan. He'll outbox Ronnie Clark, I mean, sorry.
Well, we'll hear from Lyon Woodstock next week. He's got the right of reply, and I'm sure Steve Lillis will be giving him a call. But Steve, let's talk about the fight. Archie Sharp, Lyon Woodstock. Wow, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
Oh, love it to happen, wouldn't you? I mean, look, at the end of the day, they are both prospects. So I think Leon's got the WBO European type super featherweight title. And you know what? They're both young. So, you know, whoever loses, you're still young enough to come back. It's hardly having a career defeat at 31, is it? And, you know, look, Archie Sharp is adamant he'll have the fight if they want to make it. Lyon is adamant he wants to fight. It's quite simple. Let's get it on for early in the new season. Two of the best British super featherweights getting it on in the infancy of their professional careers. You know, there's nothing wrong with these guys being matched hard like this earlier on against each other. As I say, you know, the winner, you know, will be moved on to a bigger platform very quickly. But for the loser, it's not the end of the world. We see too many boxers that just want to protect unbeaten records and don't want to take chances. And it seems that Archie's certainly up for the fight against Lyon. And although I haven't spoke to Lyon yet, and I'm sure I will before we do next week's podcast, I'm sure it'll be the same attitude because Lyon is a pure street kid. He fears no man. And of course, you've also got the winner of, you know, the Zelfa Ronnie Clark rematch, if that's going to happen eventually, to step in against the winner. There's nothing wrong with these people fighting each other. You know, be gone about these unbeaten records, but, you know, Zelfa Barrett lost his unbeaten record to Ronnie Clark, but it's not the end of the world. And it won't be for either of these two. So fair, just get it on, you lads, and don't be frightened of losing.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just point at someone who's probably top of the pound-for-pound list. His name is Bethel Lomachenko. He lost his second professional fight. So don't be scared of losing. I don't think these guys are. And do you know what? Archie Sharp, a lot of the talk had been about Zelfa Barrett and Lyon Woodstock and building towards some kind of super fight perhaps in the future. That's still there. However, Archie Sharp seems to be almost coming up on the blind side a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on against those guys.
Yeah, I think with Archie, he just sort of, you know, all the publicity was about Lyon and Zelfa, and he just left them to get onto it. You know, he's been a pro, I think, for 3 years almost now. You know, he's gradually stepped up in class over the last fight he fought. The guy he fought wasn't the worst fight. You know, Marotta had an 18-8 record. You know, before that, he had been, you know, fighting the who's who of journeymen who come over and test prospect. So it's time for him to kick on now, and I think he wants to do that, and I think he's going to kick on.
Well, we look forward to seeing his next move, and we'll hear from Lyon Woodstock next week, who I'm sure has a lot to say. Japanese pound-for-pound sensation Naoya Inoue returned last weekend and walked through Jamie McDonnell. Steve, let's have a quick chat about this guy. It was a pretty impressive showing.
He's a beast. He's an absolute beast, isn't he? Look, Jamie McDonnell was absolutely weight drained to put on 26 pounds.
Oh my
between
God.
a weigh-in and fight, if that is true. You know, only what we've heard on the day from people. No one's come back and said it wasn't true. But let's get, you know, it's only what's been said. That's dangerous. It's simply dangerous. Thankfully, he's okay. But what weight problems or not, I don't think there's any answer to Inoue, who just looks a special fighter. You know, we're in a generation of boxing right now. You see people go back to Sugar Ray Leonard, Hans Hagler, you know, those sort of great days. We're in an era now, a generation now, where we're just stacked with it. Inoue, Lomachenko, guys that haven't had a lot of fights, you know, like those two. Terence Crawford. We're blessed. We're going through a golden generation of boxing right now. And it just fills me with excitement of what it can become over the next 5 to 10 years. It's just a special time in boxing to have these guys like Inoue around. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And it looks like he's heading to the bantamweight WBSS, or the World Boxing Super
Yeah,
which is due to
yeah.
start the end of this year, and sorry, in the autumn. And what a fantastic competition it's going to be at bantamweight. I've enjoyed it all so far, but these bantamweights look special. All the champions have been signed up. Ryan Burnett, the IBF champion, Emmanuel Rodriguez, who was so impressive against Paul Butler, has been signed up. And of course, your man, Zone Tete.
Man. Oh, mate, look, listen, Tete, did you see the tweet? Tete welcomed him kind of into the tournament saying, I can't wait to fight you. And I'm sitting there reading the tweet and literally having to wipe the drool off of my phone. It was quite disgusting, to be honest with you. But I was so excited, salivating at the thought of it. Imagine that one.
Oh, mate, imagine it there. But you know what? When Tete puts out a tweet, this isn't a fighter trying to get headlines. This is a fighter welcoming him because he wants to have a fight with him and prove he's the best. How are they going to work this tournament to do the C? There's still 4 more to come in.
Why though? Why though? Do you need them? Name 4 more bantamweights who deserve a place. I don't know. Can you think of any?
I take your point there. That's a great point. Wouldn't it be great to have an elimination series in the 4? But no, I'll welcome it, an 8-man competition. A 4 would get it out of the way. You can only imagine the 4 champions are going to get seeded, and they will all meet in the semi-final for a seeding. So you just got to hold your horses a bit then, Mr. Sani. We're going to have these quarterfinals around October, and early next year, we're going to have a great night at the semi-finals. You've only got to wait till then. But to me, although I'm rooting for Tete because I've got to know him a little bit, and he's such a lovely man, Inouye, whoever beats Inouye wins the competition. Tete wins the competition, eh? You know I'm hashtag Team Tete.
Yeah,
look, hey, if he beats and he wins the competition, the man who beats Inouye wins that competition. He's absolutely fantastic, and well done to the organisers for getting that in. And I can't wait for the bantamweight Super Series. And they're also going to be doing they were going to do a lightweight, but I think it's going to be a junior welterweight one now.
Well, it is certainly mouth-watering, and we'll be keeping an eye on developments there, especially in that bantamweight division. Goodness me, the top fighters all thrown in together. Yes, please. Steve, it's a somewhat somber What You Talking About Lillis today. I'm just going to hand over to you here, mate.
Yeah, not the greatest week for boxing. Away from the ring, the deaths of Dean Francis, who was a fine fighter, a fine man, and a true fighter all the way up to his sad death last week. And of course, Brendan Ingle, legend in British boxing. And when I say that, it's not a word that I'm using just to throw in as a cliche what it's used so often. But I'd like to just mention Dean first, a fighter who was always, you wondered in life, was he just unlucky in life, Dev, because he, just as his career, he suffered, I think, an early-ish career loss in a WBC international fight to a guy from the Togo called, I think it was Jaffa Balou, might have been a Don King fighter who beat him, but he kick-started his career and he won British and European titles. Beat David Starry, if I recall, for the British title, and he was starting to look as if he would fulfil that potential. He was to join the super middleweight party. Talks of a fight against Calzaghe were often mooted, and then he had a fight one night against a guy called Andra Wright, an American. It was just a marking time fight, nothing more, nothing less than that at all. Pure marking time. And it went wrong. What happened in that fight? He suffered a terrible shoulder injury. Absolutely awful. And it put him out for best part of 4 years of his career. Wow. And at the time, he was being spoken of as a man who would be the real deal. Look, he came back, I think it was around 2002 he came back. He lost to Matthew Barney in a British title fight. The movement just wasn't there after the loss to Andra Wright. And, he still won things like the English cruiserweight title. He beat Oville McKenzie for the Commonwealth light heavyweight title. That tells you all you need to know. Went on defended against men like Tony Oki. And then it wasn't happening for him from where he was earlier in his career. And that was such a tragedy. And I think the finest tribute you can pay is what Joe Calzaghe said. And Joe was saying this not just when Dean died. He described him as the best British fighter not to win a world title. And, you know, if someone like Joe Calzaghe says that, you know how good Dean Francis really was, even if you look at his CV and see the 4 or 5 losses that were on it. Sadly, he fell to the disease that, you know, is the devil, cancer. Everybody in life has been affected by that from one way or the other, be it a relative, a friend, or they know of someone. And, you know, even though he was told it was terminal pretty early in the early stages, he continued fighting. People like Ricky Hatton and Joe helped raise money for him to go and get treatment, I think, in India, where it got to that stage, I'm not sure. But sadly, he lost his life last week, and a great loss. And Dean was just a man unlucky in life, I think, you know, the way his boxing career went and the way it went afterwards, when he should have been enjoying the best year of his life with his wife and family. It's absolutely tragic for them and the people who loved him. Someone we talked of lucky, and boxing was lucky to have Brendan Ingle. An absolute, not just what he done as a boxing trainer, but the culture and traditions he brought into the Winco Bank gym. People like Nazim Hamid, of course, was the stable star. Kell Brook, Kid Galahad he brought through as kids. Johnny Nelson, Ryan Rose, Junior Witter, Isham Pickering, you know, Neville Brown, you know, Clifton Mitchell. I'm just naming just a few from the top of my head. Guys that, you know, who were on the road to nowhere in life, really. And he taught them to be better people, better humans, as well as very, very, very good fighters. And I think the fact that, you know, we're on June 14th when Brendan has his funeral at Sheffield Cathedral, you'll see what boxing and everybody in Sheffield thought of him. The gym was, I think it's Nelson Street, the gym's on in Winco Bank. Now, I don't know the history of it being, of why it was called Nelson Street. So, but if it could be, it'd be quite fitting if that street was renamed after Brendan Ingle, because his gym's on it. His house is opposite it. The family will live on the street. And if not, there should certainly be some sort of monument in Sheffield for what Brendan Ingle did. He was just a remarkable man in the sense that, you know, he was a brilliant trainer, but he had that sort of thing around him when he would be at shows in his splendid green trainer's jacket. The media would seem to just go to him for a quote because he'd have something to say that was quotable, was intelligent, something then to divulge on and, you know, and chew on. And of course, you know, Nazim Hamid was his greatest success story, and had Nazim Hamid and not gone away and gone in his own direction, I think Nazim Hamid would have beaten Barrera. I know that's a big call, but Brendan was the man who made Nazim what he was, and that was, you know, one of the greatest British fighters of all time. The faults aren't, obviously, the obvious faults are with people like his wife Alma, his sons John and Dominic, and there's another son, I think they might have a daughter as well. All the family, the thoughts are completely with them, all the boxers at the gym. But also like to mention Carl Luckcock, who was an old friend of Brendan's, who was always in the corner with the fighters. A man who was a self-made man in industry, but he gave it all up pretty much to go and work with Brendan and the fighters. And I know how hard Carl would have taken the loss. I last saw Brendan about 3-4 months ago, and it was obvious he wasn't in, you know, he wasn't in the best of health then, but he was still in that gym watching Billy Joe Saunders train under his son Dominic. Yeah. And that says, you know, even up to, you know, the last weeks, that gym was still his life. And thank you for everything, Brendan, that you've done and helped me with as well, professionally in the early years. I go back to knowing Brendan before the Nazim Hamid days, and all, you know, though I wouldn't say I was a friend of Brendan's, professionally, it helped me as much as I could. And thank you for that as well, Brendan.
Nice words there, Steve. Thanks for that. And our thoughts are with the friends and family of Brendan Ingle and, of course, Dean Francis, who passed away last week. Now, we are a 24/7 boxing channel here at BoxNation. I'm just going to give you a bit of a taster of what's coming up in the next 7 days. How about this? Friday at 4 p.m. Linares versus Lomachenko. Watch back the masterclass. Watch back actually Lomachenko's one of his toughest fights, certainly. He got knocked down in the fight. We haven't seen him on the seat of his pants before, but he came back and he stopped Jorge Linares. He won a world title at 135. Steve, you're going to be tuning in, aren't you? Friday, 4 o'clock. What else are you going to do?
You can't get bored of watching that fight. And what makes it even more remarkable is the news that's come out in the last 24 hours that as we picked up on the night, he did damage his shoulder in the second round and he's having surgery on it. So absolutely incredible what he went through that night to win. And, if people wonder why everyone here at BoxNation speaks of Lomachenko in nothing but glowing terms, just watch that fight. It'll be at 40 minutes you won't regret.
Absolutely, and that's Friday at 4 o'clock. And Friday at 7 o'clock, it's Buzz's Boxing Hour yet again. Every Friday, he's there, Barry Jones, Sky Channel 427, and it's free to air. You don't actually even have to have a BoxNation subscription to watch Steve Bunce and Barry Jones talk boxing. Just enjoy it, tune in, and we're going to try and bring it to you as a Facebook Live as well. It'll be 7 o'clock on Friday. Look out for that. Saturday, 7 o'clock. Now, this was a fight that happened last week between Jack Brubaker and Tyrone Nurse. So we're going to bring you back that fight. There's been cries of robbery. Watch it. Make your own mind up. Steve, have you seen it yet? Have you come across it?
I haven't seen the fight yet, but I've seen the outcry there was on social media after the fight. So I'm going to watch it on Saturday, and then when you ask me next week, I'll give you the Lillis verdict on it.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting because there's been a lot of talk about this one. So I will be tuning in Saturday at 7 o'clock and casting my own verdict as to what happened. Monday, 3:30. Yes, I'm taking you into next week. How about Terence Crawford, to get you all geared up for fight week of Crawford versus Horn? How about Terence Crawford against Victor Postal? Now, this was a unification. Victor Postal had just knocked out Lucas Matisse. This was a man on a high. He was the Iceman, and Terence Crawford melted the ice and unified the division. That was a great performance, wasn't it, Steve?
Look, one of many great performances, and you'll remember at the time Postal was 28-0, being built up himself. But he met Terence Crawford, and he was just no match over 12 rounds. It was a procession, really, from Crawford and a masterclass, which we seem to see in so many fights. Postal's bounced back from that fight with a win. I think we're seeing him over here later this month. But Terence Crawford, just one of the many special performances we seem to be seeing from him over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, he's turning into one of the real special fighters that we have on BoxNation. And next week we'll be gearing up for June the 9th, where Terence Crawford challenges Jeff Horn for the WBO World Welterweight title. He's already won titles at 135 pounds. He's already won titles. Well, he became the undisputed 140-pound champion. Maybe he can become undisputed at 147. It's going to be a lot more difficult. There's some real monsters up there, namely Errol Spence in particular. But we're looking forward to watching Crawford on BoxNation. Now, we are adding fights all the time here. As Bob Arum mentioned earlier in the show, we've got an output deal with Top Rank in the US. We're bringing you their best shows. We're bringing you Lomachenko. We're bringing you Crawford. We're bringing you Ramirez, all of these sorts of guys. So keep an eye on the BoxNation schedule. Keep an eye on our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram. So just keep up to date with what we're adding. There's always going to be something new in there. So, Steve, another week, another great show. We've heard from Bob Arum. We've heard from Triple D. We've heard from the man looking to hand Triple D his first L. And I've got to give you some love here, Steve. That Bob Arum interview, well done. That was a cracker.
Thank you.
I've got to read out a couple of reviews here, actually, Steve, because this is becoming a bit of a love-in for Steve Lillis, this show. A couple of reviews come in, and I'm going to read them. Here you go, Steve. I think you'll like this one. Nice review here. 5 stars. Obs from TN118. Love the insight of Big Steve, and the variation of boxers every week keeps the industry alive.
I will take that. And I don't know who that is, if anyone's wondering.
Well, this next one's even better. This is just the perfect review to end on. So it's from John OB 1082. 5 stars again. Thank you very much. He goes, love the show, guys, plus the great catchphrases from Steve. You are officially the College of Knowledge that love to talk boxing porn. Keep up the good work, gents. How about that, Steve?
You know what? College of knowledge is one of my favourite sayings. I've used that saying on overnight shows before.
It's a good one. I'd never heard it.
College of knowledge. He's a college of knowledge.
Very, very good indeed, Stephen. You're getting all the slaps on the back that you deserve. Keep the reviews coming. Remember to tweet us any comments at BoxNation TV, at Steve Lillis, at SonnyDev, and subscribe to the best boxing channel in the world. It's 24/7 boxing. Go to boxnation.com, press a few buttons, and you'll have it on your television. Or go to watch.boxnation.com. You'll have it on your device. Just make sure you subscribe. Have a good week.